I told you, I think you're about to make off without payment. And if I don't arrest you, then you will make off without payment. So there's my grounds.
Well, I'm offering to make
Can you
payment.
come out of the car, please?
Yeah,
sir?
sure. No.
In truth, he was simply trying to pay using a 100-pound Royal Mint coin. Completely valid legal tendered, the sergeant arrives, gets corrected on the law, yet instead of admitting the mistake, he takes Tesco's side and unlawfully arrests Brett. That poor decision ends up costing him dearly, as Brett takes the matter to court, wins a substantial settlement, and leaves the sergeant to answer for his actions in front of a judge.
This is what's going to happen. Okay, so you've done your bit checking on legislation. I've just checked on my legislation. As I said to you, the shop does not have to accept it just because it is legal tender. You said it's legal tender. You are correct. However, it is a commemorative coin. On the internet, they're worth about 20 quid.
Well,
Right, so here is what is going to happen. Either you are going to pay for your fuel correctly, or you are going to fill out their civil recovery form so that you can arrange to make payment at a later date, or I'm going to arrest you for bilking.
what's bilking?
Bilking, making off without payment. You've got to the point where payment is due.
Mm-hmm.
You're now refusing to make payment. Therefore, I will treat it as a criminal offence. So how would you wish to proceed at this point?
Well, I have got means to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not going to fill out a civil recovery form. As you
Okay,
put it.
right. So what's the means that
What
you're
was the
going to
option
pay?
2?
So option 1
Yeah.
is either you pay. Option 2 is you fill out the form. Option 3 is that you get arrested.
Well, pay.
No, you pay with legal tender that they will accept.
That is legal tender.
No, they don't have,
But if this is a £50 note and he said, oh, look, we don't accept £50 notes because there's lots of forgeries.
Exactly.
Would you be doing exactly the same thing now?
yes. So
That
if
thing-
you go into a corner shop and try and pay for a penny chew with a £50 note, they are perfectly within their rights to refuse that sale.
The sergeant's first claim of bilking falls apart instantly. Under the Theft Act 1978, making off without payment requires 2 conditions: leaving the scene and intending not to pay. The auditor didn't either. He was still on the property, sitting in his car and actively trying to settle the bill. When he presented a 100-pound Royal Mint coin, the sergeant made things worse by saying, "It depends on what they'll accept." That's not how the law works. Once fuel is dispensed, a debt exists, and offering legal tender fully satisfies that debt. That a cashier's personal preference or misunderstanding of the law doesn't change that fact. That BY taking Tesco's side instead of following the law, the sergeant revealed he didn't even grasp the most basic principles of legal tender.
But this is different because...
No, it's not different.
No, it is.
You have offered a form of payment that they will not accept. The principle is exactly the same.
Well, if you arrest me, it'll be a wrongful arrest.
Yeah? It's not. It's a lawful arrest because I've explained the situation and I've explained that I believe you're doing this
So
for
you're a
dishonest
sergeant
reason.
or an officer?
I am a sergeant.
Right.
Okay?
I reckon-
So my point is also that coin is not worth the face value of it. It's not legal tender in such a way that this shop has to accept it as being valued at £100.
Okay, so,
So
it
either
has...
way, you're
Hang on.
way
It has,
short of the mark.
no, I'm not. So it is got a face value of £100, so it is worth £100.
It's not.
Well, you say that, but the Bank of England, the House of Commons, the state, all the institutions that came before you say it is, right? But you say it isn't, right? Now you say it's only worth whatever you say it was. Interestingly, I don't know if you've looked at the price of silver, but that's probably worth about £48 in silver.
So
Hang on, I haven't finished yet. So that's £48 in silver.
Yeah.
Whereas, how much is a £20 note or £50 note worth in plastic? What, a penny or 2?
This is the point where the sergeant's credibility completely crumbles. When the auditor correctly states that the coin has a 100-pound face value, the sergeant dismisses it, insisting it's just a commemorative coin. That's not how the law operates. Any coin minted by the Royal Mint with a stated face value is classed as legal tender. Whether it's commemorative or in general circulation doesn't matter. Its legitimacy comes from statute, not from an officer's opinion or a cashier's preference. That BY denying the coin's value. The sergeant exposed a serious misunderstanding of basic currency law, commemorative or not. A 100-pound coin is authorized by the Crown and the Treasury, meaning it must be accepted for the settlement of a lawful debt.
Do you want to check to make sure it's not an unlawful
Can I have
arrest?
another unit, please? This chap's about to be arrested.
Well, it'd be unlawful arrest.
It's not a wrongful arrest.
It would be a wrongful arrest. Well, how can you arrest somebody for refusing to pay when they're offering to pay with a coin of the realm?
Because you're not offering to pay with payment that they can accept or will accept or have to accept. No.
Now, interestingly, you said that you've done some research on this and I've done this before.
Yeah.
Well, what was the outcome of it last time?
It was no further action.
Why was that then?
I don't know.
Well, how come you've got a record of that?
I'm about to let you drive off from here.
Well, how come you got a record that I did it last time, but you haven't got a record of the outcome?
Why? Because I haven't got time to look at that right now.
But you have got time to arrest me and deal with all the paperwork that'll be involved in that.
Yep.
So that's just abusing your power, I think, because what you're trying to do
is using your power proportionally. These people here are trying to run a business, and you are making life extremely difficult by being obstructive in how you're going to pay.
No, I'm not.
The sergeant openly admits he's encountered this exact scenario before, yet can't even recall how it ended. That alone shows he hasn't learned a thing from experience. He's simply repeating the same forceful approach without any reflection. What makes it even worse is his refusal to verify the facts. When questioned, he casually dismisses it, claiming he doesn't have time to check the outcome. Yet moments later, he's got plenty of time to make an arrest and complete all the paperwork that follows. That's not policing. That's pure ego. Arresting someone should always be the final step, supported by clear evidence. In this case, the facts were right in front of him. The auditor hadn't left, had offered payment, and was presenting valid legal tender.
I'm only here to enforce the law. I'm not here to decide. I just suspect that an offence has taken place. Okay? So I'm not convicting you, and you're refusing, to cooperate with me any further. You're refusing to resolve this situation by giving these people your details. So therefore,
No, I don't, because what you're trying to encourage me to do is not to give them my details, but to fill out a legally binding form. You're actually encouraging me to fill out a legally binding form, right? That would be detrimental to me.
Why? Because you have to pay for your fuel just like everybody else at this petrol station.
No, because you're forcing me not to use cash. It's exactly the same as you.
I'm forcing you to provide the legal tender that this business is willing to accept.
But it's not for them to pick and choose.
It is. Absolutely.
No, it's not.
If they will only accept payment in Pokemon cards, that is entirely up to them.
Yeah, but they need to state that on the pump. Right, when I take the fuel, they need to say payment only in Pokemon. I'm not trying to. What do you think? What do you think I'm trying to achieve then out of this?
So why are you not willing to offer any other sort of payment? Do you have bank cards on you?
Maybe it's a matter of principle. This is a coin of the realm. You shouldn't be threatening to arrest me because of their preference as to what type of note or coin they accept. That's ridiculous.
The sergeant's attempt to paint the auditor as trying to pull a fast one is downright absurd. That a fast one means sneaking off without paying, not standing there in full view, offering legal tender directly to the cashier. That accusation falls apart the moment you remember the auditor never left the forecourt, never hid his intentions, and openly presented a 100-pound Royal Mint coin. When the sergeant pushes back, asking why he doesn't just pay another way, the auditor's response cuts right to the point. It's about principle, that he shouldn't have to change his lawful method of payment just because the store or police don't approve of it. The law clearly recognizes that coin is valid currency, that if retailers can refuse it and the police support them with threats of arrest, then it's no longer the law defining what counts as money. It's personal preference.
That's not your job, is it, to say what type of coin that Tesco accepts or not?
It's my job to make sure that you don't go past the point of payment without making payment.
Well, I haven't driven off, have I? I've got every intention of paying with this coin.
No.
If I had no intention, if I was trying to do something dishonest, I'd driven off, wouldn't I? But the fact is, I've waited here for you to come and I've discussed it with you. I've tried to explain it, being very civil and be rude, have I? In any way, I've got no disrespect for the police whatsoever.
No.
Might go downhill a bit if you arrest me unlawfully.
Okay.
I just think, please just check that it's a lawful arrest. I don't think it is.
I believe it is.
And the whole point of cash and legal tender is that you cannot be successfully prosecuted for non-payment if you've offered legal tender. So if I had Scottish notes, right, now they're not legal tender in the UK, they're not legal tender full stop, but Tesco's actually accept those.
The auditor was absolutely right when he told the sergeant, you can't be prosecuted for non-payment if you've already offered legal tender. That's the whole purpose of legal tender. Once it's offered, the debt is settled whether the business accepts it or not. The offense of making off without payment only applies when someone actually leaves and intends to avoid paying entirely. His comparison to Scottish banknotes hits the mark perfectly. Technically, Scottish notes aren't legal tender in England, yet stores all over the country accept them without hesitation. How can Tesco freely take Scottish currency but refuse an official £100 Royal Mint coin that is legal tender? It perfectly highlights the flaw in the sergeant's logic. The issue wasn't the auditor's payment method. It was the store's inconsistency, reinforced by poor policing.
There was an invitation to take the fuel, and I've taken the fuel, and now I've got a debt, and I'm offering to pay the debt in legal tender. Now, in the store, it's different, because I haven't taken the food, have I? In fact, if I'd have eaten the food, I'd be obligated to pay for it, and then it'd be the same scenario, just the same as if you went into a restaurant and had a meal, you know, and then you have to pay afterwards, and you offered to pay in that. Right, they can't lawfully have you prosecuted for failure to pay if you've offered a reasonable means of payment and they've refused to accept it.
Yeah, but you've refused to identify yourself to this person.
Well, I don't need to, do I?
I'm now starting to view your actions as being dishonest.
Well, how have I been dishonest?
I suspect an offence is going to
how have I been dishonest?
Because you're refusing to give your information to this gentleman so that...
But he's not entitled to my information, is he?
He is.
Okay, if I told you what
because you have a debt to settle up with him. So to go to the restaurant scenario, if you ate your meal and then said, I've forgotten my wallet, I've got no means of paying.
Oh, no means of paying.
Yeah, okay. So at that point, you're not being dishonest. At the point that you refuse to identify yourself, or you put Mickey Mouse care of Disney World on a piece of paper and say, here's my details, you're then becoming dishonest.
What about if, like, we went to the restaurant, we had a meal, right, and then I pulled out a £50 note, and they said, look, we don't accept £50 notes. They can't make a decision about refusing to accept the £50 notes when you owe them money. They can only refuse to go through with the transaction in the first place. It's only because you've had the goods and you owe a debt that they can't refuse to accept the money.
The auditor's restaurant analogy is powerful because it reduces the argument to pure common sense. Once goods have been received, a business can't suddenly decide which lawful payments it feels like accepting. They can refuse a £50 note before serving you, but not afterward. Once a debt exists, that option's gone. The same logic applies at the petrol station. The fuel had already been pumped, and the auditor offered valid legal tender. That should have ended the situation right there. The sergeant's failure to grasp this wasn't a minor mistake. It was a breakdown in basic legal understanding. Legal tender exists precisely so that once it's offered, the debt is legally settled. Full stop to be why prioritizing Tesco's personal preference over what the law actually says. The sergeant turned a simple civil matter into a criminal case that never should have happened.
Right, so these coins are made by the Royal Mint.
Yeah, and they are legal tender.
And they are legal tender. Yeah. So how can I be refusing to pay and being dishonest in any way when I'm offering to pay with a coin of the realm, a legal
because
tender
you've
coin?
offered a form of payment that they are unable or unwilling to accept. Therefore, as I said, the onus is on you to find alternative means. You've failed to do that.
Okay.
And you are now proposing to leave here without actually giving any means of identification so they can arrange at a later date to make payment with you.
Okay.
So therefore, because of that, I suspect that you are about to commit an offence of making off without payment.
See, now I reckon that if you've offered to pay, and I've offered to pay lots of times, got it on video, and right, and they refuse to accept the payment, I can't see how that I've committed a crime, even if I don't pay.
To provide an alternative means of payment or come to an alternative agreement.
So what you're suggesting is that you're going to arrest me based on the opinion of a Tesco staff member.
No,
whereas another member of staff might
based on my suspicion.
Suspicion.
I'm sure with the amount of time this gentleman has spent here, and the fact that other colleagues are aware of the fact that we have been here for half an hour.
Nah, 16 minutes.
I'm sure if he were able to take that coin, he would have done it by now, because he's got plenty of other things to do. You are costing them money by the fact that your car's sat here taking out these two lanes.
I've offered to move it, but he said no.
If they could,
I offered to move it, but he said no.
But if they were willing to take this at any point, they would have done both.
Now, don't you think, Ben, right, that the country's biggest retailer would have a simple, basic understanding of coins of the realm? and the legal tender situation and what they can do and what they can't do.
Well, they clearly do by the fact that they are not obliged to take it just because it's legal tender.
Because he said so. But how do you know he's right? And how do you know that what he's saying is the opinion of Tesco's as a company as a whole?
It's not that he's right, it's that the Bank of England is right. And it's the Bank of England that states that the shopkeepers are not legally obliged to accept any royal tender.
Right, okay. I understand where you're coming from with that. But that's referring to buying something from a store, not to paying a debt.
Okay, it's still the same,
It's not.
same situation.
No,
Okay,
it's not.
that's fine.
It's actually on the Bank of England website what legal tender is.
Yeah, it is. As I said, I have no argument with you about that at all.
The sergeant tries to sound informed by quoting the Bank of England, claiming that shopkeepers aren't legally required to accept legal tender. Technically, that's true. The Bank of England does say businesses can choose which forms of payment they'll accept. But what the sergeant completely overlooks is the context. That rule only applies before a transaction takes place, not after. Once goods or services have been provided, a debt already exists, and offering legal tender legally settles that debt, whether the retailer agrees or not. That's exactly the key point the auditor understood perfectly. Paying for fuel isn't like picking an item off a shelf where a store could decline coins or notes beforehand. The fuel had already been dispensed, meaning the choice phase was over at that stage. The only question that matters is whether the customer presents valid legal tender to pay the debt, which he did.
Okay, so I'm arresting you on suspicion of making off without payment. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something on which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Do you understand?
Yep.
Okay, so my intention at this time is to take you to Exeter Police Station, where you will be put into custody. The reason for that is for the prompt and effective investigation of the offence and to confirm your identity and your name and address.
Well, it'll be unlawful arrest, won't it?
No, not at all.
Right, where do you want me to park
I
my
have
car
the
then?
suspicion that you're about to commit an offence.
Well, what offence am I committing?
I told you, I think you're about to make off without payment. And if I don't arrest you, then you will make off without payment. So there's my grounds.
Well, I'm offering to make
Can you come
payment.
out of the car, please?
Yeah,
sir?
sure. No.
Okay.
So no use to use violence, is there?
No, well, step out of the car,
let me
please.
just get my affairs together, all right?
Okay. Do you want to provide your details or are you going to go to custody?
Well, I'll provide my details for you.
Yeah, but do you want us to provide them to this man here?
No, but you want me to fill out a legal document?
Yeah.
No, I'm not filling out a legal
Okay,
document.
out of the car then, please, sir.
Instead of giving in to intimidation, he stood his ground and took legal action and won. The outcome? A £5,000 settlement. That figure alone speaks volumes about how badly the police mishandled the situation. You don't hand over thousands unless you know you were in the wrong. This entire incident exposes how fragile policing becomes when officers abandon the fundamentals of the law. The sergeant acted on pure what-ifs, inventing criminal intent that never existed. His refusal to accept the £100 coin as legal tender only made things worse. Tesco failed in their responsibility. It was the auditor who ended up arrested. Policing turned completely upside down. What made it even more troubling was the arrogance stacked on top of ignorance. The sergeant dismissed legitimate questions, admitted he didn't know the outcomes of past cases, and still went ahead, wasting hours on arrests that never should have taken place. That's not serving the public. That's serving ego. And in the end, that £5,000 payout says everything that IT proves that when officers overstep their authority, the law still bites back. The auditor wasn't just correct. He was vindicated in the clearest way possible. This case should serve as a wake-up call for every officer. Respect the laws you're sworn to uphold, or the courts will teach that lesson, one payout at a time.